Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to the box set review for Whitesnake's 9th studio album, Restless Heart. This just came out on Friday, October 29th, and we're going to dive into it. Originally, though, it was released in 1997, and of course is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. It now has been remixed and embellished, adding in additional instrumentation like guitar and keyboard parts to it. And we're going to dive into all of that in just a bit and break it all down. But before we do, if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this. We're taking a look at the brand new Whitesnake box set called Restless Heart from their album Restless Heart, which came out in 1997. So backing up a bit here, frontman David Coverdale, he got his start in the industry back in 1973 when he joined Deep Purple, taking over for Ian Gillan. So quite the shoes to be filling that he did at that time, and I think he did a successful job of it, recording 3 studio albums with them and recorded some tremendous stuff. But unfortunately, Deep Purple broke up in 1976, which then allowed David Coverdale to start a solo career. And he released 2 solo albums, one that was called Whitesnake in 1977. Ultimately, that's what he would take as the band name. But first, he'd release a second solo album called North Winds in 1978 before actually forming Whitesnake the same year. And throughout the years, David Coverdale has been the only constant in Whitesnake to have played on all the albums and things like that. But they have released 13 studio albums, tremendous success throughout the 80s itself with a trio of albums. You can see them there behind me, starting in 1984 with Slide It In. Then the 1987 self-titled album, sometimes referred to as 1987, and then the 1989 album Slip of the Tongue. And so afterwards, though, David Coverdale broke up Whitesnake in order to form Coverdale Page, the project that he did with Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page, releasing this one album here in 1993. Fantastic, excellent album, of which he's supposed to be putting together a box set just like this that will come out in 2023. So keep an eye out for that. Later on, though, following the Coverdale Page project, David would return to his solo career, and the 1997 album Restless Heart, the one that we're actually talking about today, was actually intended to be his 3rd solo album. What I'm holding here, though, is a Japanese edition of it that was released as a Whitesnake album due to pressure from the record label itself. And so because it was intended to be a solo album, it was structured differently. It did have a different sound to it and wasn't very much in vein with the original Whitesnake sound and catalog. And that's why, if you've ever heard it and wondered why was it so mellow, it was because it was set out to be a solo album. But 25 years later now, David is finally turning it into a full-fledged Whitesnake album. He's remixed it, he's embellished it by adding additional guitar parts and keyboards that are handled by Joel Hoekstra, his current guitar player, and Derek Sherinian on keyboards. Just someone who's come in and helping him out on this here. So the new instrumentation on this, though, provides a sound that I feel is much more akin to the classic Whitesnake sound. So this album here, while I've always really liked the 1997 version of it, this one here I think really steps things up and takes it to that next level. So let's talk about this, though. This is the 9th studio album that he released at the time, as I said, originally back in 1997. This one being the Japanese one I'm holding in my hand, came with a cool booklet, the CD inside it there, and a slipcase version of this thing. And so the album itself finally had Adrian Vandenberg on guitar performing on an album. Now, he had written the material for the Slip of the Tongue album back in 1989, but he injured his wrist, and so Steve Vai performed all of the guitar parts for that album, of which I really like that album too. Completely different vibe and feel to it than it probably would have had if Adrian Vandenberg had played on it. But this album here, which now finally had Adrian Vandenberg on it and performing, the core album featured 11 tracks and had 3 bonus tracks on it. And so it didn't receive a US edition of it at the time. Of course, now that is all being corrected with the release of this. You can actually pick up the album itself just as a jewel case version like this here, or you can go for the full-on deluxe edition of it in the box set. I'll show you both of these in just a bit here, but wanted to go just a little deeper into this thing. So the original album itself has a different track listing, and that's one of the things I like about it. Not only has this been remixed, remastered, embellished, it has a different track listing, again, all helping it to take on that new moniker of Whitesnake on it. So this one kicks off with Don't Fade Away, and or I should say the original one, kicks off with Don't Fade Away, and it was a much more mellow track, and that's now at the end of the album. But this one here is kicking off with the title track, Restless Heart, which I always thought had the closest sound to Whitesnake on it of any of the songs from the album. Maybe another one I'm going to mention here in just a minute. But glad to see that they've moved that up to the front, to the start of this thing. And with the embellishments and everything that they've added to it, it's got an even bigger sound now, just making it key. And what a great track to be starting this off. The lead single that came off of this that they're using to promote this now, which is making sort of the biggest splash of all of the tracks, You're So Fine, is now the second track on the album. And that one was previously track number 7, so it's interesting how some of what were the best tracks had different positions in them, weren't really the ones that were promoted at the time and so forth. So moving those up and changing the track listing and everything is giving this whole album a different feel for it. But I think one of the most underrated tracks on this album is the song Crying. And that one has a big, bombastic, bluesy feel to it, a lot of soul in it, and I think is one of the best tracks on the album. It should have been promoted back in 1997. I think they should make a video for it and promote it now, as it's just a real stunning track on the album. So if you're only familiar with the ones they've released as singles from this thing here, definitely check out the track Crying. That's a very, very good track on here. So this deluxe edition, we're going to open this up here in just a minute, is 4 CDs and 1 DVD. Disc 1 is the newly remixed and embellished version, and I also like that they have made that Disc 1 in here. So it's not the 1997 album remastered, which is now Disc 2. They're definitely outright promoting this as the new Whitesnake version of this, as opposed to just a reissue of the older album. Disc 3 in here is called Dancing on the Titanic. It's got early arrangements and alternate versions of tracks. Disc 4 is called Evolutions. It features demos and different early arrangement versions of it, more fleshed out than what we heard on Disc 3 on here. And then Disc 5 is a DVD. It's got music videos, behind the scenes content, a making of the album portion, as well as various interviews and things on it. So all really, really worthwhile stuff throughout, whether it's the CDs or the DVDs. So here's the box. It's got a cool foil cover on it, so it's reflective. It's got the logo and everything on the side of this thing, and then there's the back side of it. So you can, go through what everything is. You don't necessarily have to open it up to get all of that. And like all the other box sets that he's been doing, the top of it just lifts right off like that. And you can see right here, we've got a tab to pull stuff out, but we've got the poster on top, which I'll show you in a minute. There's a replica tour book in it, which you guys know I love those. And then we've got the hardcover book itself. Again, I'll go through in just a minute, and the discs, and I'll pull those out. So why don't we just actually thumb through the discs real quick, because I talked about the content, but I'll just show you the cover. So there's the new 2021 remastered, remixed version of it. And I like this one here because there's a gatefold design to this one, which is different than what is inside the jewel case edition of it, which I'll go ahead and show you real quick. I'll pull out the booklet on it. And I'm not going to thumb through all of it because it's all just lyrics and everything like that. There's no photos except this one here in the back side of it. That's the original album art And there you go, the new album art. So just wanted to show you what the jewel case edition of it looks like based on this. Now, the original version, which has been remastered as well, comes in the original album art, and you can see that it was called David Coverdale and Whitesnake. That's how they sort of got around it and appeased both David Coverdale and the label for this. And this is in the wider market. The Japanese edition is the only one that actually came out just simply under Whitesnake, but the other markets, that's what they did to it to sort of appease both label and David Coverdale. All of the discs come in these plastic sleeves to protect them, but there's no inserts or anything like that. So then we've got the Dancing on the Titanic disc. It uses the original album art to it. Then we've got the Evolutions disc. There's a nice backside photo of it there. And we've got the DVD that's just called Restless Heart on it. And there's the backside with content and everything on it. So the rest of the stuff that's in here, we've got this really great book. Again, hardcover book that's in here, similar to all the other ones that we've got. There's the original art on it, and it just starts right off going in with an interview in here. But a lot of great photos. So the whole thing is a long interview that's in here with Hugh Gilmore, who's their A&R guy in the UK, asking some really great questions, and he interviews the previous members from '97, the current guys that are fleshing things out, engineers, producers, everybody gets talked about in this, and it's really great. But the big thing I like are all these great shots that are in here, and different, advertisement pieces, single releases, tour photos, just everything in here. So my only complaint though is that this book here doesn't have the breakdown of what has been embellished about each of the tracks on it. If you guys are familiar with the Red, White, and Blues trilogy series, the Best of series, he goes into detail inside those booklets about what he did and embellished with each of those tracks. That doesn't happen here, so I was a little bummed about that. This is the tour book though, which again looks really great, and I think he only did a Japanese tour. I don't know if it was tour happened outside of Japan. Definitely never came to the US, obviously, since the album didn't come out. Maybe he played in other places though. But a lot of great images and stuff like that in here, and the guys that played, and some cool stuff inside there written in there as well that was part of it at the time, explaining who the band members and stuff like that are. And then we just finish off with this poster, which I will open up. It is a single-sided poster, but there we go. Pull all the way back so you can see it. Nice classic shot of David Coverdale. And so there you go. That is the box set, as well as the jewel case edition of this. Just again letting you guys know what that is in case you want to pick up either version. You guys know I'm a fan of the jewel case, and I like having that within the collection itself, but I wanted all the bonus content to those early versions, demos, and things like that. So I've picked up the box set as well. And so while the original album, the 1997 one, had a far mellower sound, I did really like that album. But I think this new remixed version of this one here just has a much more modern sound, akin to what is current Whitesnake and so forth. And so while it may not be the classic sound from like Slide It In or 1987, I do think it fits the catalog much better than it previously did. I always thought it kind of stood out before as something that wasn't supposed to be there. That may have just been that I knew that this thing was actually supposed to be a solo album, but I think it definitely fits in now as a Whitesnake album, and I think definitely worth checking out, again, especially if you've enjoyed those Red, White, and Blues trilogy best of albums. Those are also all remixed and embellished versions of songs. Gave a hint of what we were going to expect here. Of course, now he's redone the entire Restless Heart album that way. And so, if you've enjoyed this video, I will leave links to the Red Hot and Blues trilogy. There's videos for each one that I did reviews of. You can check that out. I've also done reviews of those other box sets that you see behind me, so you can check those out too. All right, everyone, I hope you have a good day. Take care, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye, everyone.